Hello, friends. I'm Steve, and I'm here with my friend Juan from Plagued by Visions, the booktuber Juan. So, thanks, Juan, for coming by to spend some time with me to chat this Friday.
Thank you. I mean, I was just telling you, I've been hyped about this all week. So let's talk.
Yeah,
Let's talk books and stuff.
let's talk books and stuff. Yeah, there was. I've been. I think we've planned it like I don't know. It's been a while. We've looked at
It's
the calendar.
September, I think.
Yeah, it's been crazy. So it's been good, but been like looking forward to it. So it's always fun to chat with you.
Oh, same here. I am honored to be part of this legendary
Oh,
Friday conversation series.
yeah.
No, like I love this shit. Like it's like a Friday ritual. Like I haven't caught all of them, but anytime I'm like, oh, it's Friday. I'm like, let's see who Steve's talking to.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have a couple of people watching. Blackacre is here. We're talking about Blackacre a second ago.
Oh yeah.
To Kingsman's stream.
Are the Caleb's here?
Caleb's here. Hey, Caleb.
Yeah.
Harfoot is here. Looking forward to this. Thanks for coming by. And Jay is here. What the heck? I didn't get my invitation to be on. Let me know, Jay, if you want to hop on.
I invited myself.
Yeah, you just come on in. Just come on in
Yeah.
and make yourself at home. Yeah. Book Blather's here. How's Olive doing? And that I want to ask Book Blather about I just saw the preview of the picture he sent you for the collaboration video with
Yeah.
Olive on the side. That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
great.
yeah. That was
That
the
was
best.
awesome. Yeah, that was a great one. Hey, Jason Cross. Jason's a newer booktuber, so go check out his channel.
Oh, nice.
Oh no, we were talking about mountain biking.
We were
So,
talking
well,
shit. We were
yeah,
we were going in on you. We were defaming you, slander.
it was terrible, terrible things, unspeakable things.
Wait, can I cuss on here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, no,
Okay.
listen. Yeah,
All right.
it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my motto. Mr. Morningstar, how's it going? Thanks for coming by.
Hello, Toby, King
How's it
Toby.
going?
Uh,
And my wife Brandy's in the other room watching. And, and Harvard.
that's cool. Wait,
Yeah.
so can she actually hear this like live? Like, can she hear you talking
No, I think
or the walls
she's in
thing?
the well, if you're in the net, what I noticed is because she does those 24-hour read-alongs sometimes with Stacy and Ashley, and sometimes I don't do them the late night ones.
Hmm.
So I'll be in the next room over, and I can hear her sometimes. Like I can hear them talking. So man, you start getting like, oh shit, can they hear me talk when I'm doing like my thing? And so, but no, she's a couple rooms over, so we're okay.
Oh, all right.
I start getting insecure, like, oh man, people can hear all the dumb shit I say. But no,
You
it's
know, I, you've seen the kind of like skits and shit that I record. I'm just like, I'm so happy there's no windows. I'm so happy the walls are pretty thick because like my neighbors would fucking hate me.
yeah,
Just if only they could see, but
yeah. And Saf is here, new background king. Yeah,
oh
it is a new
yeah,
background. Yeah,
spooky just for me.
nice. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you. It's very pressing, and have to have an answer. Is Pam the pumpkin? You did a skit with Pam the pumpkin, and
Yeah.
how long did it really take to get all the seeds out of your hair
Oh, you mean the
for
pumpkin
the
head
skit?
thing?
Yeah,
Um so as soon as I got back from the desert running around, it took a couple of, we were there for like an hour. And then what you don't see in that video is the flies. There were like, I don't know, it's just the middle of the desert. There's nothing, and then just flies were flocking all over inside the pumpkin. So I had to put it on with flies crawling around inside. It was horrific. Um, and then when we got back, I went home. I took a shower, and then as I was drying my hair, I could still pull out like strands of pumpkin stuff. And then after that, I was like, well, I guess I have to wash my hair again. And so I washed it, and I could still like, because it's like the the
like
pulp or whatever
like the
gets
string.
ground. Yeah, it gets
Yeah.
ground down into like dust, and so there's like pumpkin shit all over my hair. Like for it was like a good 3 days, but I think I'm good now.
Oh man.
We have to suffer for our art.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was a great skit. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was it was worth it for sure.
It was worth it. However long it took you was worth it.
For sure, yeah.
And Seth says, I'm going to a Christmas parade, but I wanted to come say hi to my favorite people. I knew everyone would be here.
Oh, thanks,
Oh, thanks for coming by,
Saf.
Seth. We appreciate you.
We love Saf.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they're great.
for sure. I, I
Yeah.
was I was so happy to see like they actually joined you in like a couple of streams and stuff. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, Seth is
Community.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's always great hanging out with Seth. Pumpkin leave-in conditioner. Yeah.
Yeah, my hair was silky smooth after that, so it was worth it.
So when you were taking that shower, was all the water that was going down the drain orange? Is it
No,
from the pumpkin?
it was just like pumpkin string
Yeah.
like swirling around going down the drain, and I was like, shit, I probably not a good idea, but um,
Was your hair extra moisturized afterwards? Good question. Is
no,
pumpkin a good moisturizer?
it was it just felt dusty and gross. But you live and you learn.
Yeah. Pumpkin skit was a bit. Yeah, the pumpkin skit was bad. Was
Oh,
awesome.
see,
Yeah,
it was worth it for sure.
it was really good. It'll live on YouTube forever. It was worth it. 3 days of hair washing, but it lives forever on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have the fancy pay version, no watermark, so professional. Yeah, I do pay the $10 or whatever it is.
Oh, well, can I ask you, like,
Yeah.
is it has that been worth it? Because I use like the free. I mean, I don't get fancy with my live streams or anything, but what are the difference, or like what do you get for
Um,
your money? Or
Really, the only thing that that I well, there's two main things. Is the first thing is you can put a background.
little
You can
skull
select,
dude?
yeah. Then the little icon that I mean keep meaning to change is still there, and then you can do up to 10 people on stream.
Oh,
So sometimes when it's a big event or like a lot of people want to come, there's room for more. I don't think I've ever gotten that many people on at once, but it's
you've tried.
yeah, it's I've tried, but only so many people can stand me for more than a few seconds. So it
Right.
doesn't always work out.
Okay. Well, yeah. Sounds like I'm good then. But
Yeah. I think the one of the biggest reasons I like the background is for whenever I'm talking to an author, I can put their work in the background.
oh
And it
yeah, yeah,
helps.
yeah.
It's so that way the viewer can see the book that they can recognize the cover and they can see the names and things like that. So that's
Hmm.
some reason why I shell out the $10 or whatever it is.
So selfless of you. So
Yeah.
so giving. So
I have to have some kind of benefit for people to come and talk to me. I mean, I have to sweeten the pot a little bit.
that's, talking to you is honor enough,
Oh yeah, I
Steve.
don't. You're too kind, Juan. You're too kind. Plagued by
Yeah.
Vision Brown Shampoo and Sephora though.
Where's I'm ready. They
Yeah.
if they reach out to me, I'll do it.
plot, plot twist: you start turning into a pumpkin.
Well, that was the whole lore thing. I don't even remember. It was fun.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a good time. The chaos type
yeah,
people
I
would
couldn't
run.
even imagine. I had the most I've had is like two other people, and I was like, holy, I can't. It was like
Yeah.
overwhelming. So I don't know how you do it. You have like my utmost respect. Like it's live streams. Like I don't know. I'm not the best at them, but
Well,
I.
yeah, it's I think the main reason that I like these kind of like the one-on-one stuff is because it's much easier to manage. Um, but when there are more than one, you have to, it's a lot of brain power. I didn't realize how much it took before I did it, but to include everyone and make sure that everyone has time to talk and things like that. It can be take a lot of. And I don't. My brain is. struggling as it is. So it's tough. Wife got home,
Okay,
so gonna be MIA.
thanks, Dave. Just kidding.
Jay says I don't have 10 people I like or like me to have on. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, there's a
that's
couple people on
okay.
the stream now. I mean,
Yeah,
Brad, and there's a few people. Have any winter horror TBR? Well, do you have anything on your winter horror TBR?
I don't even do TBRs. I am not near. Well, there was one that I even see. I'm a mess. Like, yeah, y'all don't believe me. I'm like, I'm just kind of winging this whole thing. Um, like TBRs, all that stuff is like new lingo to me. Like from when I joined, um, fucking what is it called? BookTube. I forgot what BookTube is called. Like I TBRs. I'm kind of like I think you mentioned like it's a mood reader. Is that what it's called? Like you just kind
Yeah, you
of
just kind of do whatever you want.
yeah. So I don't really plan ahead. But there was Nosferatu
Mm.
by Joe Hill. I think was like this winter themed horror book. But I didn't even get a copy, and I'm on like a book buying ban, so it's like
Oh,
that's not gonna happen. But yeah, sorry.
yeah.
What
I
about you?
thought,
What do you
yeah.
have?
Oh, I have all kinds of stuff I have to read. Um, but I thought Nosferatu was good, though. I read it in July. I didn't know it was a Christmas themed book, so I read it in the
Oh,
summertime.
Christmas in July.
Yeah, Christmas in July. So
It works.
it was fun.
Yeah.
And Jay, no, we're not talking about content warnings or anything like that. And no, we're not going to go there.
No.
No,
We're
no, no,
not.
no. Let's not open that door. Yeah, I'm currently reading The Terror, but it's almost 1,000 pages.
Oh yeah. Look, I plan to read a few mammoths in the future, like bigger books. I haven't read longer books in a while, so um, yeah, that was my exciting input on that.
Yeah, yeah. I have The Terror right in back, and we keep meaning to read it, and then we keep putting it off. So it's on my
Is
shelf
that
waiting.
Dan Simmons? Is that
Yeah.
yeah. I read Carry and Comfort by him. I actually just sent off my copy of that to a viewer
Hmm.
because I was like, I'm never reading this again. It was like 800 pages.
Wow.
I was like, I'm good with having read it. Like, I'm never gonna pick it up again. So,
Jay says I've had TBRs. I've never stuck with them. Still haven't gotten to some of the books from last year.
yeah, and that's really the essence of it. Like, I don't do TBRs because my failures are like my own, and like I don't want people like watching my TBR video and then being like, dude, you didn't read a single fucking thing you were gonna read. Like, I keep that shit to myself, and then I don't get judged
Yeah. Yeah.
because I
No.
probably yeah.
Yeah, and no worries. TBRs are vague plans that constantly change for me. Yeah, that's kind of what they're kind of like a general like this is what I would like to happen, but 9 times out of 10 doesn't happen. But it's kind
Hmm.
of fun to try and plan ahead at least. Something to look forward to. I heard there may be some winter horror short stories in Hunger for Death. Just a couple. Yeah, there are a couple of Christmas themed short stories in Hunger for Death.
Oh, by Joshua
Hmm. Yeah,
Marcella. Yeah,
they
I
took a
remember
dark turn, obviously, but
that.
Hey, Shelf Center, I keep doing that with the Terror as well. No clue why. I hear good things. Maybe next October will be reason enough. Also, hi. Hey, doing, Bryce? Good to see you. Thanks for coming by and saying hello.
Hello.
Crystal's here. I used to do TBR videos. Then the next month, do a wrap up, and not one book would be on it. Would be on the from the TBR. People called
No,
me out on it.
that's how it would play out for me because
Yeah.
I did this thing like earlier in my channel where I would do themed readings for each month. Like I'd be like, uh, June is like killer kid novels or like killer animal novels, and that was horrible. I like having to stick with like a plan and having to be like, oh wait, I can't read this because I'm doing this theme, and I'm just like, man, I don't like that doesn't that's not how my brain works. It's hard to keep up. I don't know how it's like these professional ass fucking booktubers who like have it all down. I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, it's
I'm but
tough.
a clown.
Yeah. Blackacre says I might do a wrap up video where I just wrap up the probably 2 books I read, insert in wrap or some bullshit. Yeah, it's not a
A
bad idea.
wrap up, you just do a one of those like what is it called? Like they're like a burrito, they're a wrap, right? Is that a
Yeah,
food?
yeah, I think so. It's basically just like a bastardized burrito. Like it's just called a burrito.
Yeah,
You know.
with like healthy shit in it.
Yeah,
It's like a salad burrito
it's like a salad and a
with
burrito.
a wrap.
Yeah,
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 and it's cold.
yeah. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah. So I did. Yeah. So I did want to ask you what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
There's been some talk lately about star ratings and whether or
Hmm.
not we should use star ratings when you review a book, or what the benefit, or is it an outdated system? What are your thoughts on that, or do you just do you have any opinions on it?
There's been a talk about that.
Yeah, it seems like I think Mother Horror has been talking about it, and there's been a few other people in the community that have been saying, why do we need star ratings? Let's just say what you think about a book and give your thoughts on it, and you don't it's no need to use a number to rate it. You just kind of
Oh,
give your thoughts on it.
I didn't even know it was like a controversy. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, there's been a couple people.
um, well, I don't know. I feel like for here for booktube, or like at least these corners of booktube where it's like us, like smaller channels, like we kind of use star ratings as kind of to define almost like the personality or like the taste that our channel brings, something like that. So I think it's kind of useful for that.
Hmm.
We can kind of get a feel of what a booktuber's tastes and approaches to literature are based on their star ratings, and I feel like uh, that comes across much more prominently than um, just saying I like the being kind of more vague or general about it. So I enjoy star ratings. I feel like they're um, they help me kind of see where another reader is at,
Hmm.
or they get to define their own rubrics. Like I've seen booktubers or like reviewers on Goodreads say like I never do anything lower than 3 stars because I only read stuff that I know I'm gonna like, or um so I don't think, I mean, I would have to look into like what are the arguments for like not having them, look
Hmm.
more into that. 'Cause I don't know, I've never had a problem with them, but I don't know what happened. I don't know what this discourse. I've never looked into it. Um,
Yeah, I just think the argument against them, or what some people would say, is that there's little nuance with a star rating, and it's just this system where we pigeonhole our reviews into, and we can expound on them and kind of give different thoughts. And you may really love some parts of the book, or really made other parts of the book, but you overall, you can kind of elaborate a little bit more than just a 1 through 5 rating. And I think the 1 through 5 system is, I think 1 through 10 is a little bit better, but
yeah, no, I think, uh, like I said, I feel like a lot of like booktube creators kind of bring their own sort of personality and uniqueness and nuance in star ratings. Like if they explain their rubric beforehand, or like if you already know what kind of reading they do. I mean, I don't know. I don't see anything inherently wrong with them. I always feel like it's fun seeing booktubers rate their books with stars, or with random shit like 3 steaks out of 5 or whatever, like
yeah,
three. three baby diapers out of six. I don't know. It's fun.
I only do star rating reviews for like Goodreads reviews. That's because you almost have to use those to if you can use sites like that, and it really helps with the authors too if you give a book reviews, even whether it's good or bad.
Hmm. No, I feel like, well, there was this, the one book that always comes to my mind is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke,
Mhm.
because that's like one of the books that I've rated the lowest, like on my channel. But like it helped. I am 100% sure my review helped sell like a couple of copies of that, because people were like, "What's so bad about it?" Like it raises intrigue. I feel like even bad, like low star ratings
Mhm.
can raise intrigue, or especially with horror. I feel like because uh, so many horror readers are looking for something that pushes boundaries, are looking for something more extreme, or violently compelling or something like that. I feel like if you go to the lower star ratings, oftentimes they're like, I didn't like this because it was too violent, and that's fine, based on reader subjectivity. But then a person's 1 star rating could be a person's 5 star rating. Like it's like, well, I'm into that, so let me check that out. So I don't feel like, I don't know, I don't feel like they're bad. I don't know. That
Yeah,
might
I
just
think
be me.
because I've read bad reviews before that say, I hated all the characters, I couldn't like any of the characters, and like, well, I like those kind of books, so I'm gonna try it out.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Like it's all subjective. I think everybody goes into reviews knowing that. Well, not everybody, but the you know smart people. uh, so yeah, I don't know.
Jay says people complain that a 3 or 4 star is too low. A small percentage of people, but not enough to notice. Screw them.
But enough to know. Yeah. Um,
But enough to notice. Sorry.
that's. I mean, honestly, that this might just be me. I don't know. Like because I know for a fact. I think like the comment. No wait. Is it this? Yeah, I remember there was one author complaining about a 4 star review of a while back. I remember that, and she got like eviscerated on Twitter and Goodreads, and people were like giving her book like 1 star on purpose, and because as retaliation, because it's this really sort of bratty take, of like, why are you rating my book 4 stars? Why not just rate it 5 star? Like, but to me, like, I think I've said this a couple of times before. Like, I think I come from a different kind of reading background than a lot of people that are more like into the community and like the latest things. It's because I mostly read stuff by people, written by people who are dead. Like older works, or like written by people who would never in a million years log on to YouTube to watch like book reviews because they're like super famous or whatever. Um, so it's like I'm more used to the author like never intruding into readers or reviewers spaces.
Hmm.
So to me, like an author's sort of take on reviews and stuff like that has always sort of been secondary, or like I just completely unacknowledged. Like it doesn't really affect me in any way. But I understand like it's very different. Um, Here on BookTube, like I remember I reviewed Scan Lines by Todd Kiesling, and I posted my review on Instagram, or like promoted it. Like I reviewed Scan Lines by Todd Kiesling, and then he commented on my post, and he was like, "Oh man, thank you so much." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like an author, like for me, like this sort of like otherworldly entity that has never like physically existed in my vicinity is like talking to me, and that was like really jarring. And it was cool, like to get like contacted by the author himself, but it's just like I've never been sort of um, in tune with authors that way. So for me, it's sort of easier to just rate things without worrying about, um, are they going to be upset, or like, is this rating fair, or
Yeah.
am I being considerate of this and that? It's just like I just go with my feel. I just go with what I got. Always saying up front, this is extremely subjective, as all book reviews are. And then not really worry about much else. Like,
That's the way it should be, though, right?
yeah, I mean, and like I was saying, it's kind of different. I understand, like with something like what you do. You're constantly in contact with authors, which is awesome, and it's kind of like this really uh, beautiful space for like community building. But I don't know that I could do that because I'm more used to just being solely a reader, and not really crossing the wires too much with the other side of the book, which is the people writing it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
And he says it's done surprisingly well sales wise for an indie novella, and that was things have changed or things have
Yeah, Pe-
I forget the name of it now.
things things are
Things
shitty.
have things have changed since we last spoke. I forget the name of it. I'm sorry. But yeah, I know which one.
Things are so not cool since we
Yeah,
stopped that.
yeah. And
No, yeah, that no,
uh,
and I'm that's why I kind of like not even really felt bad about that review, because when I read it, when I reviewed it, it was already kind of blowing up, and I was like, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not beating someone while they're down. It's like they'll be all right if I say that I hated it. Um,
yeah, what I do like about that book is that everyone has a different opinion on it, and it's either one of those love or hate. But it's always fun to hear everyone's thoughts, whether they loved it or hate it. Just the reaction is fun. Whether they're fun either way for that book. It's
yeah,
interesting.
for me, like the most fun was like outside of the book. For me, the most fun of it was that it became like this event almost in our community. Like everybody was reading it and reviewing it. Like it felt like something that people were a part of, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
And yeah,
you have to read it. Hey, Kayla, how's it going? Hope you're having a good week. Good
hello.
Friday. So far, the show is a 3.5 to a 4. Thanks,
I'll
Jay.
take
We're
that.
we're not all paper cuts. You got to give me a break.
Yeah.
Hey, Trish. Happy
Trish,
Friday.
hi. Hello.
Thanks for coming by.
Em- Emily, hello.
I'm sorry.
Um,
Good to see you. Oh, the
sorry.
ghost of Jane Austen is judging your channel, Juan.
We've left that behind. That we're past that now, man.
It took me a little while to realize you were just it was just like a joke. It was like, what is he gonna review?
What do you mean?
The was it Jane Austen or what book was it that you did a like a
Oh, Pride and
it was Pride and
Prejudice.
Prejudice, that's what it was. My wife and I
Yeah.
were watching it like any minute now he's gonna get into the book and he was like 5 minutes in. Yeah, I think this is a joke. It was a good time though. It was a good
Yeah, it
review.
was fun. It was fun doing that.
Yeah. Oh, things have gotten worse since we last spoke. Sorry. Thank you. I keep forgetting the name of that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you recently wrapped up the collaboration you did with a bunch of booktubers. What was that? What was that experience like?
Uh, well, you're in it. Um, what was your experience like? And then I'll give you my answer.
I I had imposter syndrome big time because I thought I have no business being with these other people because it's like it's kind of
Come
like
on.
you went to the party and you weren't invited kind of thing and like hey what's going on like like, who's this guy but it was awesome. I was glad to be a part of it, and I think the biggest thing was we had to keep it under 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So that was uh, I recorded it and then I edited it and it was like 6 minutes long. I was like, okay, I have to redo this because it's too long. But
Yeah.
it was cool. It was really cool. I was really happy that to have the chance to be involved, and that was really great. So
Cool. No, yeah, I mean, I invited everybody, as you saw.
yeah,
And well, my thought process was, it's a collab about disturbing fucked up, like upsetting books, like not everybody's gonna be down with it. That was my thought process, right? So I was like, let me invite like 30 people because I was anticipating like rejections because it was around the holiday. Maybe people wouldn't have time. The subject matter is not to everybody's taste, which I get. So I was like, let's be safe. Let's have like a margin for. And then like almost everybody said yes, and I was like, oh shit. But I thought that was awesome. Like the more the merrier, the collab. I'm editing it together, and I mean it's good to go basically. And it's got to be pretty long, but I think my viewers are used to that on my channel
Yeah.
because my videos are like at least an hour long all the time. But no, it was awesome. Like I think my biggest fear was definitely like everybody's gonna say no, like nobody's gonna want to fucking do this. But so I was so happy that so many people were down, and so happy that I get to like offer the stage to so many wonderful people. And I'd been wanting to do a collab for a while, but I just didn't know what to do. Uh, I was sort of planning on like doing one for October for like Halloween, but then I got invited to like two collabs. One was on Jordaline's channel, and then the other one was on Harpies in the Trees. So I kind of like got caught up on those, and then I was like, well, they're putting out collabs, so I feel like I don't want to put more pressure on like the people working on them. Like here's my collab. Now do a video for mine. So then for December, I was like, let's do like something like Christmas theme, right? So I was kind of like brainstorming like what can I do for like a Christmas themed collab, like maybe Santa Claus being murdered, something like that, like something. But then I was just like, like let's just keep it simple, and let's sort of keep it in tune with like what my channel's primarily about, and I'm happy to see that so many people are interested in this topic, right? Because you kind of feel a little weird sometimes
Yeah.
talking about like disturbing books so much. But I feel like it fascinates everybody. People were like excited to partake in it and talk about like disturbing books. So I was like, that's cool. I feel like I gave some people like the stage to like air out some demons, and it's gonna be tons of fun. It's like 20 people in it.
Wow. Really? 28 people?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's fine.
So it's gonna be like an hour and a half long.
Yeah,
It'll be a
an hour and a half of fun, Steve.
yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited to watch it. Not only
Literally a
just
feature
yeah,
length film.
it'll be good just to watch. It'll be fun to watch it to see everyone else's.
Yeah, and you can watch it in parts. Like you don't have to sit there for an hour and a half, but or you can just watch your favorite people and ignore the rest.
Yeah. No, I'll watch them all. You know what I like about these collabs is that you get introduced to all these new people that you didn't know were out there. So that's what's fun about it too is you chance to make new friends. So it's good.
Yeah, bring everybody together because I'm like I feel like looking at the roster, I was like I feel like all these people would vibe
Mhm.
with each other, and like maybe it just takes a little push to make those connections that last a lifetime.
See, you're community building, Juan. See, you said you're by yourself on an island, but you're really building community.
I, you know, I never realized it, but that's kind of cool.
Hmm.
Like I don't know. It was kind of it's been kind of a weird like booktube trajectory for me because when I started, I made my first video like July of last year, and then I didn't make anything else after that until like November. But then like when I started getting more consistent with video making, around the beginning of this year, um, I wasn't really like aware that there was a community. Like I didn't really talk to other channels. So it was kind of like this very lonesome experience. But then, I thought, well, like let me reach out to people and talk to them and see like, if what they're about. And everybody's really friendly and stuff. So
Mm,
it's like it only took that initial push. But I feel like that's what drives me to always sort of be on the lookout for like new channels. Like I'm always searching for like new channels that talk about horror
mm,
because I feel like it's still kind of like a dreadfully underrepresented like corner of booktube. So I'm like, uh, I always have in mind, like it was a really nice feeling getting in contact with like other booktubers when I was starting out, or like when my channel was starting to get rolling. So I feel like I always want to like extend that favor to other people and sort of see, like we see you, you're doing great, and let's be friends. I don't know.
yeah,
I
that's
feel
all it
like,
takes.
yeah, I feel like sometimes I worry like, am I coming across as like fake? I feel like like people are gonna be like, who's this weirdo who's just like randomly talking to me? But um, yeah, no, I feel like it's a wonderful community that's sort of organically built, and
Mhm.
and so this collab is like my way of appreciating everybody.
Yeah, it's really great. Oh, thanks,
I
Mr.
agree.
Morningstar. Yeah, I'm not
I
sure about
agree.
that, but thank you. I'm trying to get
No,
better about compliments. I'm not good at them, but thank you. I really appreciate it.
accepting a compliment is the hardest thing
Yes.
in the world.
Yes, it is.
So I feel you.
Yeah. Kayla says, I feel like people are judging my character when I talk about loving a gruesome story or scene.
Kayla, you're right at home.
Yeah. Come on
Welcome.
in. Make yourself at home. Hey, Brad.
Look, it's Brad.
Thanks
The
for dropping
Brad
by. The
from
Brad
Paper
Proctor.
Cuts.
The Brad Proctor. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Crazy, right?
I'm like nervous now.
You did a
There we
great job.
go.
Yeah. So you're making me thank you again for another compliment. You just torturing me now. But but no, something that I've asked when I've talked to horror authors or people in the community, I've always asked them, uh, people in the horror community, the ones that I mean, by far, a majority of them are really friendly and inviting and just welcoming and supportive. It always strikes me how supportive and friendly people in the horror community are. So what is that? It's Do you have any idea why that is?
For me, it's like a conscious effort of trying to show people that I'm not a psychopath. Because I'm always like self conscious that people are watching my videos and they think like I have like people in my closet or something. So I feel like to a certain extent every horror author or horror fan is doing a conscious effort of being nice to show like to kind of compensate for the fact that they delve into like some fucked up stuff. Well, at least that's my case. But I feel like also if you want to if you want to get more like psychoanalytical about it, um, I feel like most of us sort of leave a lot of negativity on the page. Whether it's
Mhm.
writing or through reading stuff. Like we kind of uh, air out a lot of demons. We kind of uh, through catharsis unload a lot of complexes, a lot of fears, a lot of uh, the terror that strikes the human soul, and then that kind of reading horror. I think is vastly like therapeutic. I do think that reading horror really does help you sort of come to terms with humanity a little more, and so I feel like uh, horror authors specifically might be a little more in tune with what it is to sort of relate to fellow humankind and be more in touch with emotion, that kind of stuff. Because I feel like horror a lot of the time expresses sort of like the realer sides of humanity. I feel like that's where that kind of expression gets noticed the most. That's just my subjective opinion, but I feel like it's a combination of those things, like constantly uh, unloading your demons through reading and writing horror, and also making a conscious effort to let people know you're not a psycho.
And then they're not in the closet, but don't look in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mindy.
Hey, Mindy.
Hello.
And this is the fake Brad. The real Brad has been hacked. Oh. Yeah. Mindy agree 100%. Horror equals therapeutic.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of something that I've been sort of learning more and more is that uh, the horror fandom, there is a significant chunk of it that is women who love horror, and through conversations that I've had with women who love horror, I've learned that the horror genre is like this safe sort of safety cushioning where they can confront a lot of like day-to-day fears and potential threats. Like that's where that stuff gets confronted and problematized and ultimately resolved. So I can definitely see it's therapeutic as hell.
And there's so many great women in horror right now with writing horror. I mean,
Yeah,
so many. They're killing it.
for sure.
Uh, keeping people in the closet. Our house makes weird noises, and we tell our kids we keep people in the attic. What's wrong with us? Yeah, we have whenever the house settles or something. The kids,
I
what
just
is
noticed
that?
that's
Yeah,
branding. Holy shit.
yeah.
Y'all
I
are
say, oh,
evil.
that's just the guy in the attic. Don't worry about it. But that's your brother in the attic. Like something like that. So,
my mom uh my mom was grew up in Guanajuato in Mexico,
mm,
in kind of like this rural area, and there were a lot of like nearby ranches, like farms and stuff, and when she was a little girl, she heard this story of like how a pig, like this massive like pig, like the size of a grown man, like broke into the ranch house and ate a baby that was like in its cradle. And my mom used to tell us this story as like a bedtime story, and I think, I think that explains a lot of things.
wow.
So I'm just saying you're not alone in traumatizing your kids.
And Trish says, horror helps me deal with day to day life. Life is tough. Life can be tough, and it
Yeah,
is therapeutic. And no matter how bad horror is, like these fictional stories, real life is worse.
I,
Look through
I
history.
yeah, I can't read true crime stuff. I that's like my limit, I guess, because yeah, so knowing things are real
Mm,
is a new level of yeah.
yeah, no, but I agree, Trish. That it helps me too. Mr. Morningstar says Harvard did a study that violent video games usually make kids less violent because it's a harmless outlet for stress and catharsis. Horror seems the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like I said, we leave a lot of demons on the page. I think for children especially, I feel like I did a whole video on this,
Hmm.
called "Why Do Children Love Horror," and it's kind of looking at it from a psychoanalytic side, but also like a sort of like the theories around nurturing and stuff. Like I feel like a lot of the time, kids have fears, or they believe in monsters or threats that are often dismissed by adults or not taken seriously, or there's no there's no space for dialogue. It's like, kids being kids, being silly. Um, but horror is like the one sort of space that believes kids. Like sort of acknowledges
Hmm.
their fears and their worries, and sort of through the progression of a story, kind of guides them through it and eventually resolves it for them. And I definitely feel like for me that was a big deal. Growing up, being a horror fan, it was kind of the space where like that. It's kind of a trite saying now, but I do think it is real. Like it's something that disturbs the comfortable and comforts the disturbed. Like for people who might be like a little too comfortable, maybe showing, hey, there's worries, there's fears, there's threats that maybe need more acknowledgement. But for people who are going through a dark time, it's kind of saying, you're not alone. Other people have felt these fears. Other people have faced these monsters,
Hmm.
um, and it's a space for dialogue of that kind.
So go check out that video if you haven't already. It's a really great video that Juan did. More Than Average Joe says in the mid to late 70s and throughout the 80s, horror was everywhere. Unfortunately, that bubble popped. Horror went away, but it's making a comeback.
Yeah, no, I think there were definitely a lot of like complications for horror in publishing, like during like the earlier 2000s. Where what are you drinking?
A little bit of Friday whiskey.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wish I would have brought something. Um, but anyway, yeah, like in the early 2000s, like these really major presses that focused on horror like went out of business, and the authors just sort of got scattered everywhere. But I do feel like right now, through small presses or like through indie publishing, I do feel like horror is sort of reorganizing into something quite momentous and wonderful. So it's an exciting time to be a fan of horror.
Yeah. And it's, I was going to ask you about this too, is, and More Than Average Joe brought it up, is how horror has changed through the years. Because in the 80s, we had a lot of slashers and,
Hmm.
um, like the person stalking the victims, or Jason and Freddy and that kind of thing. And it's changed through the years. So how it changes with culture, with the times, the
Hmm.
type of horror that people enjoy.
Yeah. Did you want me to like
Well, if you have any
talk?
thoughts on it.
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Probably more than you're ready.
Well, I was giving you note. So
Well, I definitely subscribe to that notion of like you can really get to know a generation through the kind of horror that they partook in fiction. I do think like a lot of the time horror, like I said, is that outlet for a lot of the worry and anxiety within a cultural era.
mhm.
Um, and I feel like horror, it doesn't necessarily have to be a conscious effort. Like it doesn't have to be like, well, it's 2021, like I better write a horror novel about COVID. Like it doesn't have to be that on the nose. But I feel like um, through a little more, like it's more subtle. It's more sort of understated. But I do think that all horror reflects a certain side of an era's sort of contemporaneous anxieties and fears.
Mm.
And I feel like it's definitely uh, an interesting sort of approach to look at it historically. Um, and I feel like that's what keeps horror so fresh, because it always sort of hits at something. Well, not all the time. Some horror is pretty bad, but I feel like the ones that you can sort of feel, you feel them more. I feel much more intensely than films of other genres, because they speak to this sort of darker side of humanity that not many other uh, artists speak to.
Mm.
So I definitely subscribe to the belief that horror is like the best reflection of a society sometimes. Um, And I'll stop there. But
No, continue.
well, I don't know. I think I kind of lost thread of
Oh, okay.
the question. What was the question?
Just about horror through the years, how it changes with culture and with the times, and
Yeah,
um, even economic status or recessions, or
yeah,
whether it's an economic boom like in the '90s, or whether it's a recession like in the mid 2000s kind of thing.
yeah. Oh, I wrote my college thesis on that. I
Hmm.
I I wrote about the housing crisis of the 2000s and the Great Recession, and how it sort of like thematically reflected through haunted house movies or like possession movies that
Hmm.
were becoming like all the rage at the time, like Paranormal Activity, Insidious. Um, there was suddenly like this huge uh, anxiety and fear around the house and like home invasion. And I felt like unconsciously kind of reflected all this anxiety that people had about losing their homes and losing their sort of sacred spaces. So it can be a little on the nose like that, but it's certainly fun to look at horror that way, and also very interesting.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of like the biggest endeavor that I always undertake on my channel, because I read really like trashy stuff. I read like literary garbage, like for sure. And I feel like it so often gets dismissed. Like I always get like confused looks and like, why do you read that? Like that's doo doo. Why do you want to read that kind of stuff? And well, I always make a conscious effort of like showing, look, you can excavate meaning in anything. You can take anything and come out with a bigger message out of anything, so long as you're tuning into the right channels. And um, I feel like not a lot of people do that. So I'm always doing an effort to champion these things that so often get dismissed. Because you hear horror, you're like, that's just trashy. That's just you know what like base entertainment with no higher value. But it's like, no, that's you couldn't be furthest from the truth.
So when you're like, for example, if when you're reading a book, do you take notes, or how do you gather your thoughts for how you'll discuss it after you're done?
Yeah, I usually take note. Like I when I'm done with my reading for the day, I'll usually pull out my phone and I'll open my notes app and I'll sort of jot down whatever came to mind as I was reading it. And it's usually a mess, but then outlining a video is like the effort of like having it not be a mess. And I always kind of approach my videos with like a working thesis, like this is what I want to say about this book, and this is how I'm gonna try to get at that. It's a lot like doing my videos is a lot more akin to like essay writing than anything, which I know it's kind of a thing that not everybody's into, but that's just always been my approach to reading. That's kind of like what I try to bring most of the time. Um, yeah.
Well, I'm always really impressed with your reviews and your hearing your thoughts with what you're reading, what you're absorbing. So I think you do a great job with them.
Oh,
For what
thank you.
see a compliment.
See, I just
Yeah,
said thank you.
you did good.
Yeah,
Brad said,
yeah.
yeah. Brad said parents are supposed to traumatize their kids. Yes.
I agree, but I think some take it too far.
Yeah, I mean, there's limits. Yeah. Randy says, I'm new to horror. I started reading it more in October and I am really loving it. I connect with the stories on such a deep level.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
Mhm. And Brian's here. We were
Oh,
talking
hi,
about Brian.
Brian.
Reading and writing horror probably keeps me out of trouble. Sure.
Same here, Brian.
Yeah. Whenever kids are in trouble, they should hand them a book that Brian wrote. So here,
Yeah,
kid.
give
Yeah.
him Sinister Mix.
Yeah.
and
Read this, and this will
they'll
keep you out of
never get in
trouble.
trouble again.
You should start a show, Scared Straight, you know, Sinister Mix edition. It's like,
Oh God,
uh, I love Sinister Mix. It's a great book.
it's wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah. Mr. Morningstar says, didn't the first Purge come out near Occupy Wall Street times? Makes sense. Yeah, it
yeah.
did, right? Yeah.
The Perch. We had there was another one. Um, the Dark Knight Rises, which is all about how
Oh,
like when the sort of I'm not gonna get let's not open that can of worms. But yeah, definitely you can sort of maybe not in the moment of while it's happening, it's harder to notice.
right.
But looking back, it's always a fascinating approach to sort of look back and see what the hell was that all about. And I feel like it's always been like that, because something like in the 70s, like the sort of escalation of the Vietnam War, there were all sorts of concerns about, uh, does the government even have our backs anymore? Like things like Watergate,
Hmm.
and there were all these sort of horror filmmakers who were making the most revolting and unpalatable stuff imaginable. Something like Last House on the Left, where Wes Craven, constantly said in interviews, like, I just had this impulse to make something really ugly and hurtful, and he said, it's always a process of like you're not conscious of it in the moment, but then you look back and try to figure out what all that stuff meant, and it really does click in place. Oh my god! I just noticed you're wearing your winter
Yeah,
hoodie.
my winter hoodie. Yeah, that's why I fell asleep earlier.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I lost my. I feel like this is a mess. I'm sorry, Steve.
No, just for context, because it probably sounds weird. Because we were talking before, I was telling Juan that I was reading and I fell asleep in my chair, and it's one of those naps where you fall asleep for a few minutes, but when you wake up, you wonder what day it is or what time it is, and you have that moment of panic where you thought, well, what day is it? Did I oversleep? And so then it feels like another day, but it doesn't, and you're kind of in this weird in between. So yeah, that was the nap.
Yeah. One time I woke up and like my phone just said 9, and I was like, is that AM or PM? What's going on? And then it literally took me like a couple of minutes to like figure it out. I was like, what is it? I was texting friends and shit. I was like, what time is it? What day is it? Um, but I figured it out eventually. Anyway,
More than average Joe says, any thoughts on where horror is headed? It's a good question.
that is a good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm not reading. I feel like that kind of labor that I undertake is sort of is more like figuring out where horror has been, like what has happened. Like I'm never like current on my horror reads. Like, and this is something that I always say. Like, I don't read or watch contemporary horror that much, just because as it's coming out, like I don't know where to start. I don't know like what it's gonna be like. Whereas things from the past sort of already have like a reception and legacy to them, so it's kind of easier to figure out what you'll like that way. And so I I have a couple of guesses. Like I certainly see there's a resurgence or sort of like a continuation of like more extreme horror that's becoming a lot more prominent, and I think
Hmm.
that's often a retaliation against sort of censorship or general sort of like societal discontent, like something that you saw like in France, earlier in the millennium with like the new French extremity, like something like you saw like in the 70s after Vietnam and Watergate with like these super violent and grisly horror movies.
Hmm.
And I've definitely been noticing it happening now. I feel like a lot of indie horror authors are more drawn to writing about more violent stuff. And I couldn't. I'm not a professional in any way to like confidently diagnose what that means, but I certainly see it happening, and it's interesting to see like where that's gonna go. Because I feel like a lot of indie authors also are working under this like philosophy of almost like trying to outdo each other, like who's gonna take it the next level, and that's an interesting dynamic. But I don't know how far it can go, and I don't know what's gonna be the takeaway message from that, if there is one. But um, you know me, I'm always interested to hear like what's the new like thing that's making everybody throw up. Uh,
Yeah. And I wonder, because you mentioned about indie horror authors who are pushing the envelope, and I wonder how much of that is because they can,
yeah,
because there's not a publisher telling them you have to tone this down, or you have to edit this out, or you have to change this. So I wonder how
for
much of it
sure.
is just letting loose and just doing whatever.
Yeah, like telling the stories that couldn't be told before.
Mm.
Um, like, I do see like in terms of like on where horror is headed. Um, there's a lot of buzz about like where publishing in general is headed. Because indie publishing is becoming a lot more one prominent, but also a lot more successful, and like smaller press publishing. So, and like you said, that opens up the opportunity for a lot more transgressive and horrific and violent stuff, and it's like this sort of free for all kind of uh, open range of like do whatever you want, and
Mm.
someone's gonna read it, and that's kind of exciting, but it's also kind of like um, well, it's fascinating, like where is it gonna go, and to what effect? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think part of it is too is that um, now that studios are like production studios are afraid to take chances on stories.
Hmm.
I think these lesser known books and they're more likely to be optioned or to at least have interest in them because they're afraid. I think a lot of studios are afraid to take chances on something that it's not a proven franchise anymore. If it's not a superhero franchise or Star Wars or whatever, I think they're a little nervous to sink too much money into a property without knowing they're going to get their money back. So I think it's
Yeah,
there's so many great stories to be told with the indie publishing or the smaller creators.
yeah, and I people think I'm like a things have gotten worse hater, but I can genuinely appreciate like this momentous occasion of like this weird little indie book, like exploding, and I don't know if I read correctly, but there's been like talks of like maybe adapting it. Like there's been talks of like sequels for it. Like this really sort of unlikely story taking off in such a powerful way. It definitely speaks to the fact that that sort of more convention based story production is being destabilized, and we're definitely seeing a lot of weirder, more out there stuff gain more prominence. And I think that's exciting. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily going to take down Disney or anything like that, but it is exciting. It is kind of like a breath of fresh air in a way.
Mhm. And Emily says, I enjoy your approach. I fly by the seat of my pants in mine, and my ADD shows. Yeah, I just kind of like wing it too. So that's why I wing it. It takes me a couple hours to do something like a review, and then I end up with like a 5 minute video, and then I watch your half an hour, well thought out, well constructed video, and I'm like, oh man.
It, in fairness, I do always think my videos could be a little shorter, and I always tell myself, I'm like, okay, this time we're gonna keep it brief,
Yeah.
and then I have like 2 hours of raw footage, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm
Speaking of,
trying. Just to know I'm trying.
Speaking of raw footage, when you did your unedited video, it was a couple months ago. You could tell, you could just feel that how you just kind of winged it. You just did this unedited. You just uploaded whatever you recorded. It's been a couple months, but you could tell
Yeah,
that it
yeah, yeah.
was like a uncomfortable because you get so used to being able to edit things out. So when you're just kind of like going with it,
Oh,
it's
I
like
was
a whole
so
new
nervous.
experience. Yeah.
I was like shaking. I was like, this is not what I was made for. I rely. I really, people are always like, oh my god, like you're so eloquent, like all this, and I'm like, no, it's just I edit my stuff and I outline it and I kind of even practice it sometimes beforehand, like what I'm gonna say and stuff, because I rely on that a lot. Like there's people who do things in like one take, and I'm like, how? That's like impossible. That's like inconceivable to me. Um, but we all work with what we got, you know.
More than average Joe asks, do you guys think that horror, especially underground or indie titles, helps in terms of free speech?
Yeah, well, I mean, well, it depends on like what you mean by. I mean, in terms of censorship, I think like what we were saying, it definitely helps. Like, uh, do away with all those censors or like all those editing and some I'll be honest, sometimes that's not always to a benefit. I've definitely read like indie titles where I'm like, this could have used an editor for sure. um but in terms of like literal free speech, as in like you can just throw out whatever you want, uh yeah, for sure I can see that. um
Yeah. It's an interesting question because I hadn't thought of it until more than average Joe asked. But I could see somewhere down the line that Amazon, who is uh, prints a lot of these indie books, can clamp down and say, okay, we're not going to allow X, Y, and Z in our books anymore.
mhm,
If you're an indie writer and you have this in your books, then go somewhere else. Then what?
mhm. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely like not fully independent
Mhm.
in the sense that you're saying, because they're still relying on a distributor. Like something fully independent in my mind is something like zines. Like people who make their own kind of like pamphlets their own little sort of more personalized texts, and distribute them. They print it and distribute it on their own, and that's truly like, and zines have been around for decades, so it's not
Mhm.
something new. But I can definitely see something like that being the next step, if there ever was something like what you just described,
Mhm.
because I feel like people always find a way to get their fucked up little stories out no matter what. So I have hope.
I mean, I guess you could like start a website and just sell the ebooks if you wanted to and avoid printing, but I think
Hmm.
you'd could probably cut out some of your customers if you did that. So if that ever happened I don't think that will happen. I hope it doesn't happen, but it could.
Yeah, no, I mean, for Amazon, I mean, it's not really fully like free speech, like without getting like too political about anything. But you can't sell like sort of things that are on a political extreme on Amazon. So it's not fully like free speech in that regard. They do have certain limits, um, and we don't have to get into like the morality and stuff like that. But it's definitely regulated to a degree, and like you said, they could push those regulations further. But to me, like indie publishing um, always finds a way in a sense. Like back in like the 70s and 80s. Like a lot of these more marginalized communities, like the LGBTQ community, like most of the literature that they produced, most of like the that side of human experience, came out through um, pamphlets, like fan made magazines, like like these sort of ephemera, like things that sadly a lot of it is lost to time just because it was never really properly archived or anything like that. So it's more
Mhm.
like an in the moment kind of thing. But people always find a way to get their stories out there, and human ingenuity we should not underestimate.
It's true. Yeah. I am waiting for someone to come along and just start printing ebooks or indie books and just kind of give not necessarily give Amazon a run for their money, but just be another option for people who don't want to use Amazon.
Yeah, yeah, that is something that I've thought about, because I'm someone who has made like the personal choice to like not buy stuff from Amazon,
Mhm.
but I am also somebody who likes to write. I never like to say I'm a writer. I'm someone who likes to write because I haven't published anything. But um, eventually, publication um, would be a thing that I would want to do. And like you said, like Amazon seems to be like the most logical and like profitable outlet for that. So it's definitely there's problems with that with Amazon being like the one place, but um, yeah, who knows? We'll see. Somebody rises to the occasion.
I hope somebody does. Somebody with some resources that'll just because it's sad that they have so much of so much control over
Yeah.
indie publishing. Mr. Morningstar says Blockbuster has such a powerful position in not wanting to rent NC-17 films and even hard R that filmmakers would tone down some scenes, knowing Blockbuster's influence on their income.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, for filmmaking, it's a whole other can of worms. And again, indie filmmaking is like the place where you see like the more extreme stuff, the more out
Mm,
there stuff. So it's always, I think, particularly, it's not that indie publishing is like a new thing today, but it's more like I feel like more people are finally starting to see like that's where they're gonna get the more unfiltered stuff, and the people who are into that are like, I'm home, like this is what I've been looking for. So I think that's kind of cool.
yeah, I think even some movies, even if they intend to be in theaters, an R rating can be like a death wish for a lot because they lose so many
Hmm.
ticket sales that way to have even an R rating. They often tone it down to get that in PG-13 rating.
Yeah, there was a it felt like an eternal era where you would be hard pressed to find an R-rated film. Like they were always PG-13, and they were always toned down. They were always like super generic, like cookie cutter, like Blumhouse shit fits. But we don't have to get into that. But uh, I feel like the sort of more indie uh, studios have really started to take off, and made horror something that's like a little more fearsome and a little more edgy
Mhm.
now. And I think that that's good, to kind of push that boundary. I remember, when Hereditary came out, it was like this big thing. Like people were shocked in a way that they hadn't been in a while, and I'm genuinely convinced that it was because we had gotten such a bad rut of like just these studio PG-13 horror movies that were all the same. And then A24 sort of brought like resurfaced this edgier sensibility to horror that it, Hereditary is not like wholly original. There are things about it that are kind of derivative or like borrow from older horror stories, but it felt so fresh. I think because it felt so edgy, and by virtue of that, felt very refreshing. It was
Mhm.
like this new thing. So um, I feel like the same certainly happens in publishing a lot of the time.
Hmm.
But I've read some terrible indie books for sure. So
Yeah.
take that with a grain of salt.
So how do you feel about Blumhouse?
you know, I I think some of their movies are like delightfully tacky. I feel like I really enjoy. I'm a big fan of like the paranormal activity movies because of how like because of how awkward and like weird they are, and like how not a horror movie they are. I don't know. It's hard to explain. So I find it kind of endearing, but I love trash. Like I love cheesy, garbagey stuff. Like that's kind of one of my big things. One of my big passions is garbage. So so I can appreciate it on that level. But I know, like when people tell me I hate these movies, I'm like, yeah, I get that. Um, but I think Blumhouse kind of I see it like historically as like the life support of horror movies. Like they really helped sort of keep horror alive through these trying decades where it really felt sort of anemic or like it was going down. I mean, horror in the 90s was rough. Like
Yeah.
you you would be hard pressed to find good movies, good horror movies from that era. There were a couple, but for the most part, they were stinkers, and that I think was a scary time for horror, no pun intended, because I feel like it really felt like it was going under. Like it really
Mm.
felt like horror was just not gonna be a thing anymore because it was just like someone said earlier, like the bubble popped. Like all those slashers, all those from the 80s and 70s, like just kind of like no interest, no passion, very mechanic. But then when we come into the 2000s with things like with torture porn like Saw, Hostel, these kind of it kind of like having a sensibility of like horror's last hurrah, where it kind of felt
Mm.
like well, now let's throw everything at the wall and sort of send it off on a high note, I guess, or a really low note, depending on who you ask. But then when Blumhouse came around, it did kind of feel like, in terms of production, in terms of like a market, it really did feel very revitalized, just because they put out so much stuff, and
Mm.
a lot of it I do think is good. I do like some Blumhouse horror movies, so I could appreciate it sort of like from a market standpoint for really sort of keeping horror alive. And now I think um, people are starting to get a little smarter and more inventive with horror, and I think that's great. And I think a lot of that is owed to the fact that uh, Blumhouse sort of kept the ball rolling and kept that interest going, and now I'm hopeful for horror, and I think maybe it's because we're living in such scary times. I feel like that's where horror really starts to like hit home a lot more. So it's like this really precious artistic outlet that we should protect at all costs because
Mm.
um, it can really help us cope.
Like, yeah, like a therapeutic outlet is what we talked about earlier with some people in the chat.
Hmm.
Like a therapeutic way to kind of head to therapy.
For
Or,
sure.
or
Yeah. Who needs
or
therapy when you have horror?
yeah, just go see a horror movie.
Yeah.
Or go see a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can.
And I think you had mentioned all the stinkers in the '90s, and a lot of them were like teenage, the kind of slash. I know what you did last summer type of thing, and that was
Hmm.
during the economic boom. So maybe there's like we had talked about earlier.
Yeah. Oh
More
yeah.
than average Joe. Any thoughts on Grady Hendrix and his retro revival of horror lit?
I haven't read Grady Hendrix. Have you?
I have not, but I think was it Final Girl Support Group was like a love letter to slashers from what I've read,
Mm.
like 80 slashers.
Yeah. A viewer actually sent me a copy of what is it called? Um, Southern something.
Oh, there's a Southern something support group. I forget the name of it.
Southern vampire something. You know what I'm talking about. It has a
I'll look
peach
it
on
up.
the cover. Um, but I haven't read it, so I don't know. I don't know how much I can say about Grady Hendrix. But I do, of course, I'm aware of his uh, Paperbacks from Hell book, which sort of like uh, revitalized an interest in like vintage horror. And of course, like Valancourt put out like this paperbacks from Hell label where they reprinted a lot of these works that were long out of print. So I think that's great. I am a little bit mad because now, like, you could get like old, shitty, like vintage horror paperbacks for like 50 cents. And now they're like collector's items. So they sell for a ton. And so I'm like, that sucks because now, because now they're like harder to get. But I do, at the same time, I'm happy that there's more interest in that stuff that kind of felt like it got lost in time. But people are finally starting to see the light.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know if that like vintage horror stuff. I don't know if that's what he writes about in his books or
Well, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires.
that one.
My best friend's exorcism I heard is good.
Hmm.
Horror Store I heard was good as well. The Final Girl support group I've heard good and bad. It's one of those that either you either really like it or not so
Yeah.
much.
So it seems like he does like gimmicky stuff, but like on purpose, right? Like
Like a wink and a nod gimmicky.
yeah, like
Yeah.
so that's cool. I don't know. I look forward to reading stuff by him, but I don't know. I don't know him well. I'm not acquainted.
Southern campy vampire or vampies.
Yeah, Southern Gothic. Sorry.
Speaking of old books that are hard to get, I've been trying to get the original version of The Stand, and that book is like,
Oh,
man, that thing is hard to get. I guess the original.
like
I
not
guess
the uncut version.
yeah, like the really long, like 1,400 page version. For some reason, I want to torture myself with that, but I've been trying to
Oh no,
find it. I just
the
can't find it.
the the original was shorter.
Oh, it's shorter. I thought it was longer.
No, it was shorter, and
Oh,
the
okay.
because the the newer is like the uncut. He added like 300 pages to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're looking for the shorter one. I didn't know that it was that rare.
Yeah, I think
Um,
our friend Stacy, we were trying to read it together, and I think Stacy had to go on eBay and get like this old, beat up, barely holding together version from eBay or something. So yeah.
yeah, there's the one that I'm always hunting for that I've well not right now because I can't buy books. But you know what? If I find it for a good price, like fuck it, I'm buying it. But the original paperback for The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that cover.
I haven't. Should I look
It's
it up?
like yeah, it's like it has like a cheerleader with like a skeleton face. It's like the
Oh man.
furthest thing from what the book is about, which is
Oh really?
hilarious. Um,
That story is so disturbing. And what's worse is that it's was it loosely
oh,
based?
have you read it?
I have not, but I've heard about the I've heard about the actual case. So I haven't read the book.
Oh, do you have a copy of it?
No.
I can send you one.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
I I
It's one of
have a
those times that
couple.
I I've thought about reading it, but at the same time, it's kind of I don't know if I want to.
Oh,
You know.
okay. I respect that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I won't press you. I won't
Yeah.
press you on it.
So it's this one, right? That's the one you're talking about.
That's the one. It's
That's weird.
it's like that has nothing to do with the book. It makes it look like this wacky like skeleton girl horror comedy, and it's like the most horrible fucking thing you've ever read in your life. Um, that's why I want it, but it goes for like $200.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so not happening.
Wow.
So that to me, that's what um, Grady Hendrix did. So thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Gritty Hendrix.
Yeah.
Okay, this is it took months to find a cut version of the stand for a price I was willing to pay. I didn't expect that to be so hard to find. Kayla, if how where did you find it, if you don't mind me asking? Because I'm trying to find a copy of it. I'm
Mm.
guessing eBay might be. I've gone to all the used bookstores and well, not all of them, but a few of them, but I wasn't able
Have
to
you
find them.
searched eBay?
I haven't because I know that I'll end up in a bidding war and I'll end up paying way more than I should for because you start getting competitive and
Are you one of
uh,
those aggressive bidders?
I can be. That's why I had to get off of eBay because it's something I don't even like. I'll bet $1 on this, and then it gets up to like 30, $40. I'm like, this, I'm not gonna let this person beat me. I'm gonna keep
For
bidding.
real. I'm always like, fuck this. Like, it's personal now. I don't like, he's actively antagonizing me. So,
Yeah. Oh, Facebook Marketplace. Okay. Yeah, I don't have Facebook. So
oh, yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Uh,
I live in a scary ass fucking place of the world. Like, I live in this desert town, like hills have eyes type of situation. Like, it's scary out here. And I I downloaded this app. I don't remember what it was called. It was like um offer up or something like that.
yeah.
It's
Offer
like,
up.
yeah, it's kind of like a Craigslist basically. Um and I searched like um if anybody around here was selling books because we don't have any bookstores around here. Like the nearest bookstore is like 2 hours away.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so I was like, well, maybe people are selling books somewhere. And so I looked up books, and it was mostly like Bibles and like things like that. But somebody was selling like this old, like crusty, beat up copy of the Lord of the Rings, and then they were like, "Oh, you can come pick it up at this address." And then I looked up the address. It's like in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, that's a fucking death trap. I'm not. So I don't buy books locally.
Wow. Yeah. I don't want to copy a Lord of the Rings that bad.
Yeah, like an old, beat up, dusty copy of it. Um,
Yeah.
so that was my story.
I know my mom has one, and she's holding out on me, hoarding it. Yeah. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law is the biggest fan, so I haven't gotten my hands on that one. Just sitting. But
Oh
yeah.
wait, Brandy, I have a question. Have you made Steve a blanket?
No, I have not had a blanket. In fact, she's working on a blanket for my nephew because my nephew and his fiance are gonna have a baby. So now I have to wait in line again. I go to the back of the line again. I have to wait for my blanket. Yeah, and winter will be over, and then I still won't have a blanket.
You'll get a
Yeah,
blanket in like the hot ass middle of June or something.
yeah, I'll get a blanket in June, but it's 100 degrees outside. You know?
Well, we love Brandy,
Yeah,
but that is kind of sus.
definitely. Yeah, my family needs to stop having babies because I get back to the back of the line every time.
Well, it's probably easier to make a baby a blanket.
You would think so, but yeah, it, yeah, but I'm not bitter.
Okay.
Yeah, no blanket
No
yet.
blanket yet. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Trish says I have a second copy of the cut stand I'm willing to
Oh
part with. Oh wow, cool. I'll have to get in touch with you, Trish, and see what you would, how much you want for it.
no, Trish, send it to me. I'm just kidding.
We're gonna start a bidding war right
Yeah.
here. I'll pay you $100 and I'll pay you 105.
150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Steve would stop adding my books to my TBR, maybe I'd have more time. Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Touche. She got me. She has me there. Yeah.
But you know what? I think that that's beautiful that you're a couple that reads.
hmm
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Our kids read a lot too.
It's great. Oh, hi, Jason.
Hey, Jason. He's at work goofing off. I'll have to tune into this one, but I'm at work. Cheers, guys.
Well, thank you for dropping by.
Yeah, thanks for dropping in. I know that uh, Jason has a really strange schedule, so I feel for him because it's really tough to work nights like that and to switch back and forth.
I thought you were going to say Jason's a very strange person. I was like,
Oh
whoa.
no, no, he has a strange schedule.
I was like, damn, okay. No,
Shots
we love
fired. No,
Jason.
yeah, Jason's great. He's awesome.
He's in the collab.
hmm
So
Yeah,
everybody in this chat is in the collab,
yeah,
basically.
just about everybody. Yeah, Yeah, and I especially like the pictures that everyone submitted for the.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Uh, I I asked, I asked everybody like give your best impression of like that little guy. And I like that, some people were for like the glamour shots, like looking scared, but like in a, still giving face, and then some people were just like fully went in. So that was fun variety.
yeah, that's really. I was impressed with some of them. Some of them are pretty close.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Dave's.
yeah, that's great. That's a great one. I actually really like the stuff Steve picked for me. I'm reading Crossroads right now, and it's great. I just like to give him shit. Yeah, true. Yeah, I can confirm. I get that everywhere I go.
No, we love Jason.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jason's
Jason's
great.
a big inspiration, um,
Definitely.
for the children around the world,
Yeah. Uh,
like
I wanted
myself.
to. Yeah, me too. Yeah, Jason's one of the reasons I started doing this because I wasn't sure I'd have an
Oh,
audience. Yeah, so
yeah.
his really laid back approach was, um,
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Like,
mhm.
it's kind of like you two are kind of like this chill ASMR kind of moment, which I love.
Yeah, we're gonna start narrating books and selling them as ASMR.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, have a
Um,
side hustle.
yeah, I don't know who was my biggest. By the way, are you? I'm just like, are you trying to end this? I don't know if you have
No,
like
unless
a.
unless you want to go.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, I was just like, am I rambling on for too long? Or,
no,
oh, okay. um, oh,
have a
well,
great
have
one, Jason.
fun. Have fun. Thank you for tuning in. Um, yeah, I was gonna say the channel that made me start was Cameron Chaney. I don't know if you watch
I think I've
his
seen a
videos.
couple. Yeah,
Yeah, so I had like no concept of like booktube when I started. Like I didn't know it was a thing that like. I mean, I knew people talked about books on YouTube, but I didn't know it was like an actual community full of like all these people. So I think I searched like horror books or something, and like his was one of like the first results. And then I saw like he had like this really like um just like very like enthusiastic about horror, which honestly I had never seen anybody on YouTube being like that. So I was like, that's cool. I can try to do that. Um, so yeah, he was uh he was the first sort of booktuber that I found, and like the reason why. So blame him for me being here.
yeah. I wanted to ask you something because your channel's a lot bigger. It's keeps growing and growing and growing, and I wondered, as your channel grows and you need more viewers and more people interacting with you, do you ever second guess yourself with the content you make and say, "Well, I need to have to kind of have it to this standard, and I have to kind of I don't want to say meet expectations, but I have to make it worthwhile, and I can't just kind of because I used to just kind of throw things together and like what no one's gonna watch anyway, screw it. But now that a couple of people watch, it's kind of like, well, I have to at least put some thought into it, and like
Mhm.
so did it ever cross your mind?
So if there is like if there is a standard that I should be meeting, I don't know what it is. Like I really have like no. I continue to be bewildered day and night about how my channel has been growing. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm like a little concerned. I'm a little scared because I don't know where all these people are coming from. So like I really don't know. I have like no concept of like yeah, I went on like my analytics page once and I saw like all these fucking numbers and I was like, I don't know what this I don't know. Like I don't know what to make of this. Like so my thing is like and I guess like this is my biggest advice to like anybody that wants to like start a channel and stuff like that. Um it's like just put out the things that you're passionate about, like just don't really worry about what's the biggest trend right now. Don't worry about what's gonna drawing the big, if you want to worry about that, I mean, do you? But I put out things that I know I'm passionate about and that I want to make videos on, and I guess it is something I've noticed that there's no real like cohesion to the kinds of videos that I make. Like, I guess mostly horror, but I'll pretty much talk about anything. Um, but to me, it's like you throw out, you put out your seeds out into the world, and something's gonna grow from it. Because to give you an example, like Southern Gothic literature is like a big passion of mine. Like it's the thing I specialized in college. It's like the thing that I could almost call myself a sort of like not expert, but like something that I can speak on with a kind of authority. And then I had noticed that there weren't really any videos on the subject on
Hmm.
YouTube. And so I thought, well, I'll make one. This is something I'm passionate about and stuff. And then, it ended up being like this 50-minute video as usual of me sort of giving like kind of like an introduction on the genre, what to read, that kind of stuff. And then when I uploaded it, like back in, I think it was earlier in the year, um, almost at the beginning of 2021. Like when I uploaded it, it got like 30 views, maybe less, and I was like, I'm fine with that. Like I'm not looking to like go viral or anything, obviously, or I would be doing something else. But to me, it's kind of like this. For me, it's like patience is the name of the game. Because eventually, like the other people out there who are also passionate about this thing, like they're gonna search for it. They're eventually gonna stumble on it, and they'll watch it and they'll engage with it. Um, and then now that video is almost up to like 3,000 views. So it's like it's not. It didn't break the internet, but it's gained some traction
Hmm.
over time. And I'm just like I don't worry too much about like what's the standard for like my content, like how am I gonna step the game. I'm just like whatever I'm feeling passionate about, I'll put out. And I know YouTube makes it very hard to do that because it's right there on like the homepage of your studio
Yeah.
page, right? It's like your videos, you know 10th place, it's not doing great, like you're flopping.
Yeah.
But
Nobody cares.
right, yeah. But I learned somewhere along the line to like let that go, and I'm just like, I think it's just about having fun. I know everybody says that. I know it sounds kind of repetitive and trite, but I do think it's like the biggest thing. Like just put up things that you're gonna have fun making, and eventually like the right people will watch,
Mhm.
right? And that's the most I can say on on whatever the hell I've been doing here on this platform.
Yeah, I mean, he says, I started my YouTube channel because I was inspired by Megan and Sue from the Spine Breakers.
Oh, never heard of them.
I think they have a book club, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm,
They do like monthly reads and stuff. Popular channel.
nice.
Juan, your authenticity is what keeps people watching. I am sure of it.
Oh,
There you go. And then he
thank
says, "Oh my god, I need to go back
thank
and
you.
watch that." Yeah, I want to get it more into Southern Gothic.
Yeah, check it out. If you have an hour to kill, you can microdose it if you want.
Yeah, and Kayla was thinking the same thing. And Kayla is actually really close to 300 subs. Last I checked, she was like 9 away.
Oh, nice.
Kayla makes great videos. She does great reviews. Reads especially horror, really great,
Hmm.
consistent. So anybody who's not subscribed to Kayla, go check it out because she makes some awesome stuff. Definitely.
For sure. I am
Yeah.
subscribed. We do like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, cool. Juan, thanks for coming by to chat. It's always a good time chatting with you, and I know we kind of go off on all these tangents, but it's fun. It's a good time.
So first of all, I apologize. Second of all, yeah, thank you. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this, so I'm happy that it finally happened.
Yeah, no, these are supposed to be like just like a casual thing. So no, I I didn't prepare at all. I have at least an idea of what I'm going to, but with you it's just like really easy because we just go off and
You were like,
I
it's
don't.
Juan.
Yeah, I was like I don't have to plan. It's like we'll find stuff to talk about. Like
Yeah, and we sure did.
yeah, we should have about awkward naps and old cheerleader covers with skulls faces and yeah, we found all
Yeah,
kinds of interesting things to talk about.
it was a great time. Oh well, we're about to leave, but thank you for coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Glad you. Oh, you got your booster shot. Okay,
Oh yeah.
glad you didn't dematerialize into 5G energy and float out into the ether.
That'd be a good horror book. A
There we go.
movie. Yeah.
Timely.
Yeah,
Um,
it was very timely. Hey, thanks more than average, Joe. I appreciate you coming by, asking questions. It's always fun when people come by and interact with us and ask questions and just kind of
for
be part of
sure.
the conversation. So it's really great. Thanks for taking the time. And Brandy
Thank
has to
you.
watch, otherwise, I'll have to give her a hard time about it later. So
Well, thank you, Brandy.
yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks everybody. Thanks Juan for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy
Of
and have a
course.
lot going on, so appreciate taking some time to come and BS with me.
Anytime.
Yeah, cool. Thanks
All
everybody.
right.
Have a good night.
Bye.